So good afternoon once again and welcome to the online learning platform at Department of Civil Engineering, BMSIT. So you and me, we are together with the course Municipal Wastewater Engineering, popularly also termed as Public Health Engineering. As you're aware, these are the course outcomes for your subject. And in the previous session, we had discussed about sampling, collection, and preservation techniques for municipal wastewater. Today, in this presentation, I'll be taking you through knowledge with respect to the characteristics of the municipal wastewater. Why do we need to study this? Okay, what are the various physical, chemical, biological characteristics? Towards the end, I'll be summarizing the presentation and taking you through the references for a kind perusal. Okay, so what is the basic need for studying the characteristics of sewage, of a domestic wastewater, or any wastewater for that matter? It has multi attribute that we need to understand, because if in case you're not studying the quality or quantity aspects of the sewerage, okay, and this sewage eventually ends up in your groundwater or your fresh water or your soil, okay, your marine ecosystem, it would have implications, it would have impact such as probably waterborne diseases. Of course, pollution is definitely the prior information that we all understand. Okay, now eventually whether your soil is getting polluted or your water is getting polluted, the health impact with respect to the public health is of prime importance. Okay, now not just the concern is with respect to your health aspects and the diseases which could spread. Okay, not just the aesthetic aspects that when your sewage enters your fresh water, your lakes, your river, okay, it gives it a very bad appearance. Okay, unacceptable odor and taste probably. Okay, not just that, also probably we need to understand that if it's a standing ecosystem, okay, like a lake, it's most probable that your domestic sewage can influence or trigger or aggravate the phenomenon of eutrophication. So apart from all these aspects which are negative, okay, apart from all these detrimental impacts, there could also be some opportunities that lie. Okay, the opportunities are like, if we know what is the characteristics of the wastewater, then we can set up a treatment plan for treating it. And then after treating it, we can reuse the treated wastewater for various purposes. And these purposes could be to supplement the demand of industries, commercial establishments. Okay, it could also be for sewage farming. Okay, it could also be to recharge your groundwater. And please remember, I am talking about treated wastewater from the municipal localities. So these are the various reasons, the various positive and negative reasons that we need to study the characteristics of a municipal wastewater. Now, any wastewater for that matter, whether it is industrial effluent or municipal sewage, they would have three characteristics: physical, chemical, biological. Definitely, depending upon your industrial pattern, whether it's a dry industry or a wet industry, and its operational procedures, whether it uses water as a raw material or so the characteristics for industrial effluent or industrial sewage will vary from industry to industry. It would rather be heterogeneous. But when it comes to your domestic sewage, that is, which is arising from your house, from your kitchens, from your lavatories, from your washrooms, from your dishwashers, okay, this is more or less homogeneous. Okay, so let's begin with the first physical characteristic, and that is color. Okay, now please remember, fresh sewage is usually grayish in color, and it generally has a dissolved oxygen. But as time moves on, as this oxygen is consumed for various purposes, this fresh sewage becomes septic, okay, and develops anaerobic conditions, and therefore the gray sewage eventually will develop a black appearance. So the moment you find that the sewage has a black appearance, it means that there is no more dissolved oxygen present. Okay, now hence the color also indicates the strength and the age of the sewage. Now if you basically take the context of industrial sewage, now the color can vary, probably depending on the heavy metals that is being employed, the dye industries, textile industries, tannery industries. Okay, the color would vary, and it can be various combinations and possibilities. Let's say, if iron and manganese is present in an effluent, okay, but this kind of possibility does not exist in a domestic sewage unless otherwise you have got certain, unauthorized establishments, laboratories, which are discharging the wastewater without the permission of the authorities. Okay, now why is color important? Because aesthetically speaking, it doesn't look pleasing enough for any individual if your water, okay, has a brownish or a blackish appearance. Now how do you detect color? Obviously eyes, that is visual detection. Now apart from that, we can also go for instrumental techniques such as colorimeter. Now usually if you're going for instrumental technique, then probably the unit of measurement would be the cobalt scale or the platinum scale. Now moving on from color, let's talk about temperature. We need to understand that the temperature of a wastewater is always greater than the temperature of your normal water. Okay, and that is because it is possible that your wastewater is releasing heat due to chemical reactions, due to microbial actions, and also probably due to thermal pollution. So there is warm water or hot water which is being released from households and the industries. Okay, now since you consider and realize that your wastewater is traveling in closed conduits, okay, now this closed environment also aggravates or enhances the temperature. Typically the mean annual temperature of a municipal sewage is about 10 to 21 degree centigrade. Okay, so what is the implication of this? In case if your wastewater is hot and this wastewater enters any natural ecosystem, it can be detrimental. Let us say it enters a lake or a river. What would it do? Okay, it would alter the temperature of the receiving body. It can also reduce the dissolved oxygen levels, and it can be harmful to the aquatic life, let's say the fishes or any other species for that matter. Now typically the temperature is measured using a thermometer, and the unit of measurement is degree Celsius. Okay, now let's move to the next one, that is odor. So odor, or in simple words, smell. Typically, a fresh domestic sewage has a musty or soapy or oil odor. But as it becomes stale or as it becomes old, as anaerobic conditions become predominant, then it develops a offensive, pungent odor, something very similar to that of hydrogen sulfide, like a rotten egg. Now, basically, this odor which is being produced is because of the decomposition which is taking place in the sewage, and mostly it is the anaerobic bacteria which are at play. Okay, now what is the impact in case if you are exposed to unacceptable odor? Then you would definitely have symptoms such as puking, or difficulty in respiration, or lack of appetite for drinking water or food for that matter. Now, while your domestic sewage has again more or less a similar kind of odor, when it comes to industrial effluents, the odor would vary. Again, it depends on the type of the industry and the type of the process that is underway. Okay, now the unit of measurement for odor is typically threshold odor number, and we can use various devices, okay, like your portable hydrogen sulfide meter. But yes, from individual to individual, it is eventually your your nose that you are using to smell. Now the next physical characteristic is your electrical conductivity. Okay, that is the potential for water or the wastewater to transmit or conduct electricity, or allow electric currents to pass through. And this is a indirect measurement of the total dissolved solids which is present in your wastewater. So probably in case if your wastewater contains very high concentration of chlorides, okay, then the electrical conductivity would be high. So the units of measurement, of course, is millisiemens per meter. Now moving on, turbidity. This is a very important physical characteristics when it comes to any sewage or effluent. Now, basically, turbidity is a property of the water or the wastewater to disrupt the natural movement of sunlight. Okay, for instance, let us say you have a glass of water which contains suspensions. Okay, now if the suspensions are more, the sunlight, let us say the intensity of sunlight is 100% when it was striking your glass bottle, okay, which contains wastewater or a water which has impurities. By the time the sunlight is coming out, okay, now the intensity would have reduced to 60%. So what is the remaining 40% go? The remaining 40% probably was lost because the impurities have absorbed the radiations, the sunlight, the impurities have scattered it or reflected the sunlight. So as I was saying, greater the turbidity, the amount of sunlight which would be reflected, absorbed, or refracted would be higher. So what are the implications of this? Just imagine that you have a lake ecosystem and you have a wastewater which is having high turbidity which is entering the lakes. So now eventually it is going to disrupt proceedings or functions of the lake. For instance, photosynthesis. If your sunlight is not able to enter your lake ecosystem, then it will also eventually destroy the aquatic life. Correct? Okay, now if you got impurities, suspensions which is entering your lake ecosystem, it can have complications. They provide a surface for the microorganisms to grow, the microorganisms to thrive. Okay, so now these suspensions eventually can become settlable particles. They can get settled down, and then they eventually start exerting demands, sediment oxygen demand. So higher the turbidity is not really great. So it is mandatory that the turbidity can be removed or eliminated, okay, before the wastewater is disposed into any natural ecosystem. Now, as you can see on the slide, you can see numbers 250, 100. Basically, the unit of measurement of turbidity is Nephelo turbidity unit, NTU. Previously, it was Jackson turbidity unit and Formazine turbidity unit. So popularly called as NTU, JTU, FTU. Now, how do you actually quantify turbidity? The instrument is called as Nephelo turbidity meter, which you can see on your bottom right hand side of your slide. All right. Okay. Now, there are various reasons why turbidity can be higher, and they can be contributed because of suspension. But what you need to understand here is, okay, again, turbidity is just an indirect measurement of suspensions in the water or the wastewater. Okay, it is not precisely telling you what is in the wastewater or the water as a matter of fact. Okay, so these physical measurements are basically indirect techniques, not the direct technique. So now let's move forward. So let's now speak about solids. Okay, now since we spoke about turbidity, since we spoke about suspended solids, settlable solids, let's try to understand much better about this. Okay, now the various kind of solids that can be present in your wastewater or water also. Okay, but mostly the wastewater, because of the organic and inorganic components, are suspended solids, settlable solids, dissolved solids, colloidal solids, total solids, fixed solids, volatile solids. Okay, in further sessions I will be discussing in detail the significance of each one of them, and we should also be trying to understand how the measurement of solids is done in wastewater engineering. It involves instruments such as weighing balance, okay, furnace, oven. It also includes specialized glasswares such as desiccators, Imhoff cone, and so forth. Okay, but what we need to understand is the presence of solids is not desirable in a domestic sewage. Okay, as I told you, when solids are present in your domestic sewage, it can exhibit sediment oxygen demand, it can exhibit chemical oxygen demand, it can exhibit biochemical oxygen demand. In other words, solids in the wastewater, when they enter into a lake or any other ecosystem, can reduce the dissolved oxygen levels. Okay, now the typical unit for measurement of solids is milligram per liter. Now let's move on to the second characteristic feature of domestic sewage, which is chemical characteristics. Now let's look at the first one, pH, that is potentiohydrogen, which basically refers to the potential of the hydrogen ion concentration in your water or your wastewater. Now we are all aware of the pH scale. 0 to less than 7 is acidic, 7 is considered neutral, greater than 7 and up to 14 is considered alkaline. Okay, now generally, most often, your domestic sewage is slightly alkaline, but the same cannot be said for industrial effluent. Again, it depends on the industrial operations. Now, pH is usually typically measured with a pH meter, and what we need to understand here is the acidity or alkalinity aspect of a sewage can have implications on your receiving body also. For instance, if you have highly acidic wastewater entering a stream or a lake, okay, it can alter not only its inherent pH, it can also influence the DO and the temperature pattern. Eventually, it is going to destroy your entire aquatic ecosystem. If you recollect the concept of acid rain, it is quite similar to this. Usually, it is preferred that, at least in Bureau of Indian Standards, that the wastewater which is being disposed after treatment onto any receiving body should have a pH of 6.5 to 8.5. This is the typical acceptable range. All right. Let's go on to the next chemical characteristic, which actually has a historical relevance. In olden days, when we never had technology or knowledge to quantify or assess microbes, pathogens, viruses, bacteria, when we didn't have knowledge or the methodology to achieve them, what the public health engineers used to do is they used to determine whether the water, that is your aquatic ecosystem, maybe a lake or a river or a drinking source of water, has chloride or not. Because in case if the receiving water body has chloride, it's an indication that there is human waste entering your lakes and rivers. So moving on from the historical relevance, we need to understand that we as human beings, not only us, even the wildlife, okay, animals, we all consume lot of chlorides every day. Okay, probably it could be as sodium chloride, that is a common salt. Okay, eventually what happens is all this chloride is being dumped, discharged. Okay, it comes out from your kitchen waste, it comes out from the human excreta, it comes out from your the sweat and the urine as well. Now typically, how do you measure this? We go by the volumetric method or by a simple titration. Okay, this image on your slide clearly tells you what are the different possible sources, how chloride can enter, okay, your sewerage system. So it can be due to weathering action of rocks, it can be from your water softeners, it can be typical wastewater coming from your houses, okay, that is from your lavatories. Okay, it can be probably if there is an industry which is a softening industry, okay, and so forth. Now, let's go on to yet another important chemical characteristic, which is total nitrogen. Now, total nitrogen basically comprises of organic and inorganic. Okay, now inorganic nitrogen basically comprises of nitrate and nitrite nitrogen, while your organic component is also called as Jadal nitrogen, but in the combination of ammonia, nitrogen. Typically, if a wastewater has nitrogen, okay, then it will definitely contain free ammonia, which is the first stage of its decomposition. Okay, now if in case your wastewater which contains nitrogen has not undergone decomposition, then it will be in the form of albuminoid nitrogen. Once your entire wastewater has been decomposed with the context of nitrogen, then it is in the form of nitrates nitrogen. Typically, in a wastewater treatment plant, the treatment is provided in such a manner that all the nitrogen can be converted into nitrates. Okay, please remember, nitrates is also associated with methemoglobinemia, that is the blue baby disease. All right, now again, based on the age of your sewage. If it's a fresh sewage, then it will have very high of organic nitrogen and very less of inorganic nitrogen. At the same time, if your sewage becomes stale, septic, old, then it will have more of inorganic nitrogen and less of organic nitrogen. Okay, now let's move further. Let's move on to other chemical characteristics such as fatty acids or fats, grease, and oil. Typically, a wastewater treatment plant, okay, in the preliminary treatment will be having oil and grease traps. Okay, and that is because, if you permit your wastewater into the treatment plant, if it contains oil and grease, it can cause hazards, okay, such as fire threats. It can also, impair the functions of pumps and other utilities. So basically, from where is your fat, grease, and oil stuff coming into your wastewater? From your kitchens, from your washrooms, okay, soaps, detergents that you employ. Okay, apart from this, if you have a garage, if you have a factory or a workshop, okay, a service station, a petrol pump, okay, and if there is any kind of leakage or any leaks which have happened, and probably in the event of a rainfall, the runoff along with this oil and grease will enter into your sewer lines. Okay, now let's move further. Yet another important chemical characteristic is your sulfates. Okay, now it can exist in three forms: sulfates, sulfides, and hydrogen sulfide. Now, the most important contribution or knowledge that we need to remember here is crown corrosion. Okay, now typically, if your wastewater contains hydrogen sulfide, your wastewater would have been stale, okay, and it would have undergone anaerobic decomposition, that is absence of oxygen, and you will be observing or witnessing a pungent odor like a rotten egg smell. This clearly indicates that there is no more oxygen left, and all the organic content is being converted into forms such as methane and the hydrogen sulfide. Okay, now yes, hydrogen sulfide is a product of decomposition. Now, the concept of crown corrosion is very important for us because, if you remember, I had told you that, in the event of dry weather flow, wet weather flow, there are issues of maintenance and operation. Okay. Now, sulfates, if it is present in your wastewater, can, result in the corrosion of the crown of your closed conduits, that is your sewer lines, and that is because of the transformation of sulfates into sulfides and hydrogen sulfide and then sulfuric acid. Okay, however, this concept will be dealt in detail once again in further certain classes. Okay, now apart from hydrogen sulfide, there are a few other gases which can emanate from your wastewater, such as oxygen, nitrogen, ammonia, carbon dioxide, and methane. Now, methane is produced by methanococcus and methanobacter. Now, sometimes, your domestic sewage may possibly also contain certain toxic substances if there is an illegal, unauthorized, illicit discharge, probably such as phenols. Okay, also there are high probabilities that pesticides can also enter into your sewerage system due to an outcome of agricultural runoff. Okay, again, usually industries, the wastewater coming from industries typically contain heavy metals such as cadmium, chromium, copper, iron, manganese, nickel. But yes, this also may find its way into your domestic sewage if there are any small scale unauthorized operations or laboratories, okay, such as those which handle chemicals, for instance, chemical engineering labs, environmental engineering labs, and if they are illegally unauthorized, unauthorized manner, they are dumping this into the domestic sewers. So then all these toxic substances also will be finding its way. Now, the danger part of having your heavy metals, okay, in a domestic sewer line is it can destroy the microorganisms which is present inside your wastewater, which are actually capable of purifying the wastewater. So hence it is not acceptable that your phenols and pesticides and heavy metals are entered into the domestic sewer line. Okay, now one of the most important chemical characteristic would be the organic fraction and the inorganic fraction. In subsequent classes, we will be discussing in detail with respect to this, but I will give you a small glimpse. Okay. Now, your wastewater, which is coming from your residences, is mostly organic in nature and slightly inorganic, but of course, it can vary. Now, what happens is, when your organic fraction or inorganic fraction is entering into the water as a mode of transport or a receiving water body, they undergo transformations, and this transformation can be due to chemical reactions, oxidation, reduction, or microbial decomposition. As an outcome, what happens is, when they are getting decomposed or transformed or oxidized or reduced, there is a threat to the dissolved oxygen level in the water body or in the water itself or in the wastewater itself. Okay. And subsequently, what happens is, the dissolved oxygen level comes down and the demand rises. Demand such as the biochemical oxygen demand, the chemical oxygen demand, the total oxygen demand, okay, and so forth. But my dear friends, we will be discussing this in detail in the further classes again. Okay. In those classes, we shall also be discussing about self purification of streams, Streeter-Phelps equation, and so forth. Now let's go to the third and the last type, that is biological characteristics of the domestic sewage. Okay, now when I say biological characteristics, I am probably talking about the bacteriological characteristics and the microbial characteristics as well. Okay, now shifting away from the aspect of aquatic plants. Okay, now let's try to focus on microorganisms. As a public health engineer, as a civil engineer, as an environmental engineer, what is the need for knowing biological characteristics? Very important, because if you do not have knowledge upon the microbial components, then you will not be able to prevent epidemics. Okay, you will not be able to identify which are harmful or microorganisms, which are harmless microorganisms. Okay, if you do not have knowledge on this, you will not be able to quantify their presence, or you will not be able to understand how dangerous they are. Okay, or how do you go about eliminating the threat. Okay, now when it comes to your microorganisms, the various types are your bacteria, your viruses, your protozoans, and helminths. Okay, now those microorganisms which are harmful to the human health, those microorganisms which are capable of causing diseases, they are called as pathogens. Those microorganisms which are present in your wastewater, okay, those which are present in a receiving water body due to some contamination, okay, but they themselves do not cause any diseases. They are only indicators that your water body has been contaminated, your water body has been polluted, but they themselves do not cause any diseases. Such class of microorganisms are called as indicator organisms. For instance, for example, Escherichia coli, popularly also called as E. coli. Okay, now the image what you see on your top right hand corner is E. coli, and the image what you see on your bottom left hand corner is Vibrio cholerae, the one which can cause cholera. Okay, a waterborne disease. Now, when it comes to your bacteria, basically there are two types of bacteria, intestinal and sewage bacteria. Intestinal bacteria are those bacteria which are by default present in the gut of the human being, in the intestine of the human being. Now, in the human being, now they can be of two classes, non-pathogenic and pathogenic. That is, a healthy human being will have non-pathogenic bacteria, such as fecal streptococci. Okay, the image you see on the right hand corner in blue color. Okay, but let us say you are talking about a person who is sick, who is ailing from, let's say, disease such as diarrhea, okay, or let's say cholera. Then in the gut or intestine of that human being, there will be pathogenic bacteria such as Salmonella, Shigella, Vibrio cholerae. Okay, now if these are bacteria which are naturally present in the human body, there are also bacteria which are naturally present in the sewage itself, in the wastewater itself. Okay, and now they basically belong to three classes: strictly aerobes, strictly anaerobes, and facultative. That is, those bacteria which can survive only in the presence of oxygen, dissolved oxygen, those bacteria which can survive only in the absence of oxygen, and facultative, that is they can survive both in the presence and absence. Okay, now examples have been given for your kind perusal. Now if you recollect, I had told you that methane is produced during decomposition of wastewater. Now methane is produced by methanobacter methanococcus. They are anaerobic bacteria. All right, okay. Now let's know something more about bacteria. Now bacteria can be classified based on the shape, whether it is spheroid, spiral, filamentous, rod curved. Now, what is the importance of knowing about bacteria in both the manners, plus and minus, positive and negative? Okay, there are useful bacteria for us which can help the process of wastewater treatment. For instance, Nitrobacter, Nitrosomonas, Actinobacter, Delovibrio. Okay, these are good bacteria which can help in the treatment of wastewater. At the same time, there could be also bacteria which can be harmful. For instance, the one which causes bulking of sludge, okay, which actually impairs the treatment process. Now let's move on. Let's speak about the last few examples or classes or categories. Okay, now fungus. Okay, now if I want to relate fungus to you, the best example would be mushrooms. That's a macrofungi. Okay, now that you understood what I am talking about, even your wastewater contains microfungi. Okay, and they actually play a very important role, just like your mushroom does. What does a mushroom do? You usually find mushrooms on dead leaves, dead trees, dead barks. Mushrooms are decomposers. Fungus is a decomposer. Okay, in the same manner, the microfungi, such as your sporotrium or your fusarium, okay, they actually play a very vital role in trickling filters. A trickling filter wherein wastewater is treated under anaerobic conditions. So it is a useful microorganisms. Then of course you have algae. Okay, now algae can have both the roles, positive and negative. While algae is very useful when it comes to oxidation pond, where they are intentionally present or utilized in order to enhance treatment process. But at the same time, algae present in a natural ecosystem can be detrimental because it can cause eutrophication. All right, now example for this would be Ulothrix, okay, which the image for which you see just below that. Now let's move on to protozoans. Now protozoans play a very important role because they eat bacteria or they feed on the bacteria, and thereby by doing this they are helping us to treat the wastewater. At the same time, there are protozoans which are also pathogenic. Okay, and that is something you need to be aware of. Okay, and in case if they are present, then you can have diseases related to your stomach, or basic typically waterborne diseases. All right, now the last class or category is your viruses. Okay, now viruses definitely they're pathogenic. Okay, and as you know, viruses require a host body to survive. So your polio is caused by poliomyelitis, your hepatitis A and E. Okay, so viruses by default are pathogens. And how do these enter? Again, it enters from an unhealthy ecosystem or unhealthy human being, and the waste which is discharged or the human excreta from an unhealthy human being. All right, okay. Now, let us summarize what we have learned today. First and foremost, you have understood what is the importance or need for knowing about the various characteristics of wastewater. Then you have understood the three characteristics: physical, chemical, biological. In physical, you have learnt about color, odor, turbidity, conductivity, solids, and so forth. In chemical, you have studied various characteristics which can be organic in nature, inorganic in nature, toxic in nature. Okay. Now, examples would be further pH, sulfates, nitrogen, phosphorus, heavy metals, gases, and dissolved oxygen. Now, when it comes to your biological characteristics, you are aware that it can be your aquatic plants, but yes, we have focused on the microorganisms, that is bacteria, protozoans, fungus, rotifers, viruses, and so forth. Also, you have now understood that there are two classes of microorganisms in wastewater engineering, one which is harmful, that is pathogens, and one which is beneficial, that is indicated organisms. So friends, these are the references which I have gone through. Okay, you may also go through this for your kind perusal. In the next subsequent session, we shall be discussing about the layout of wastewater treatment plant. Okay, and so yes, thank you. I'm done with the presentation. Now the session is open for question answer.